everybody. Good to have you with us, and we're live. Thanks for joining us. I'm host Jim Masters, and this is the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. Everybody is tuning in to this series that the network that we use is actually overloaded. Could you imagine that? They're actually overloaded with their service. So that's why we wanted to make sure everything was perfect for us and everything was hunky-dory and all of the ducks in a row, as we always like to do, to bring you the best broadcast possible. This is our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. We have a lot of people tuning in from all around the world, and we love that. If this is your first time here, welcome. I work in television and radio and stage and film professionally, have for many years. And we launched this series back in April 2020 as an extension of my professional work in television and radio broadcast media. And it has been absolutely spectacular. We're inching into, I think, that 650 episode range, which is absolutely amazing. I cannot believe we have done that many episodes of this Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series and coming at you live day after day after day. Truly amazing. Thanks to everybody who has been commenting and tweeting and Instagram messaging and Facebooking about our series, our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series, where we're bringing back the lost art of conversation. Thanks to Dick Cavett and Johnny Carson, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, some of the veterans with a touch of modern flair and modern vibe today. And we love this. Thanks for everybody who supports the show, who comments about the show, who tunes in. We love you all. If this is your first time here, welcome to the show. This is the Jim Master Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. We also say hello to our Lovity Squad. That's the folks who watch our series all the time. They are the real faithful. We have an international audience. Folks comment and watch and enjoy themselves with our poignant conversations. Our amazing guests coming in from Broadway and Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, inspiration, and so much more. So hello to the JMS Lovely Squad. Everybody's commenting. We love that. Now, if you would like to comment live during the show, there is a little chat section that is available to you right now while the show is live. And if you'd like to do that, we would love to see your comments, love the interactivity. Our viewers are sort of like our studio audience from around the world, so you can comment live when you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's a gift for all of our subscribers to the YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. Subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss any of the amazing episodes we do day in and day out of our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. So Jim Masters TV is the YouTube channel. The show is the Jim Masters Show Live. And if you love this episode and any of the episodes that you enjoy, don't forget to give this episode a hearty thumbs up. There's a little thumbs up icon that you see under every episode. Give it a thumbs up. We would love that. And leave a comment on the YouTube channel as well. I see a bevy of comments coming in already. Thank you so much, everybody, for the enthusiasm and for all the love. We really appreciate that. Got an amazing guest, literally, coming in from the United States. Our show comes from the United States in the greater New York area, along the southern New England coast. World-renowned mentalist, author, and TV personality extraordinaire, the one and only Amazing Kreskin is joining us here on the show. And if you're familiar with him, then you know what I'm talking about. He's extraordinary, very captivating. If you don't know who he is, where have you been? You'll learn tonight. He is absolutely amazing. And he's had his own television series. He's done it all. There's even a board game named after him. We're going to talk about a lot of cool things. I mean, with a showman's flair, comedian's wit, and the capabilities of a bona fide mentalist or thought reader, the Amazing Kreskin has for 6 decades dramatized the unique facets of the human mind, his own. His very name has become an integral part of pop culture throughout the world. And during the past 50 years, Kreskin has had a television series, his own board game by Milton Bradley, 20 plus. It's well more than that now. Published books, major motion picture inspired by his work, and more. In the 70s, he headlined his own television series for 5.5 seasons called The Amazing World of Kreskin, which can now be viewed on Hulu. That's right. And the airline industry estimates that Kreskin, this is really cool. This is really amazing if you didn't know any of this. It estimates that Kreskin has flown over 3 million times to reach a vast international audience with his unique brand of mentalism. To reveal his remarkable diversity, John Romero, a leading game authority, quotes in his book, Las Vegas, the untold story. Kreskin is the most dangerous person in the world with a deck of cards. The casinos would rather deal with Willie Sutton. Actor-producer Tom Hanks released in a 2009 feature film, The Great Buck Howard. It is announced at the end of the movie that the inspiration for the main character, the Amazing Kreskin. The character is played by the star of the movie, John Malkovich. In 2010, in the movie Dinner for Schmucks, the character played by Zach Galifianakis says his hero and the influence, the Amazing Kreskin, with further exemplifying the wide scope of Kreskin's exposure and attention. It's been showcased in recurring appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, Regis Philbin, David Letterman, and most recently Jimmy Fallon, Neil Cavuto, Howard Stern, and so much more. That's just really the short list, folks. There is so much more to the Kreskin story. He and I actually met each other in New York City at a VIP gala event. And I have to tell you personally, who could not be more affable, warm, kind, funny, curious, inquisitive. It was fascinating. And the evening wasn't even about him. It was about somebody else. But everybody was so captivated when the Amazing Kreskin came into the room in our VIP section. Everybody went to him. And it makes sense why. He's been doing this for a long time, folks. Really, he's absolutely epic. He's beloved. And we are honored to have him here as a guest on the Jim Masters Show Live. Got a couple quick things to show you guys before we bring him on. Some cool things for you to take a look at. Take a look at this. And this shows you just a brief snippet of the amazing career of the Amazing Kreskin.
You've seen him on TV and in the news. For decades, he's amazed audiences with his uncanny ability to read minds, project thoughts, and see the unseen. He's
the Amazing Kreskin.
The Amazing Kreskin. The Amazing Kreskin.
Kreskin.
Please welcome the world's greatest mentalist, the Amazing Kreskin.
I want you to concentrate. If I say something that rings a bell in your mind, I'd like you to stand and acknowledge it. Let me know where you are. Someone's going to come up to you with a microphone. You wouldn't have to touch it. They'll just kind of hold it to you. Would you concentrate, please? And as I'm speaking to you, I'll jot down my impressions on this pad. With someone amongst you with the name, I want to say Helen, but Helen doesn't seem right. Could it be Helene? Would you raise your hand and let me know where you are here in the house? Does it ring a bell in anyone's mind? Anyone here in the house? Go over to that person there. The usher's right with you right now. And can I ask you this, sir? We don't know each other personally, do we?
No.
Who is Helene?
My daughter.
Can I ask you this? Do you have 2 children or 1?
2.
Does the initial M mean anything to you? Yes or no?
Yes.
We've never met before, have we?
No,
Would this
we
be your
haven't.
other daughter?
Yes.
Would her name be Mala?
No.
M-A? What is M-A-L? What is the name?
That's not my daughter.
Who's that?
My daughter is Marna.
Marna, pretty close. I couldn't get it exact, folks, huh? Because he had, give him a hand for acknowledging. I really appreciate that. Who is thinking Ali? Does that ring a bell? The lady come over here. Is it spelled A-L-L? Is it I-E or with it is I? That's unusual. Who is Ali?
My daughter.
Can I ask you this? You're asking me in your mind about, is it your dog you're thinking about? Is it the dog? You have a dog?
I have a dog.
You have a dog. Does the initial C ring a bell? Yes or no? Yes or no? Is that the initial of the dog?
Yes.
Would the dog's name be Cody?
Yes.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. Why don't you over here try to say your name? Ring it over here. Let him try to say his name. Just try to say it. Try to say your name. Try us. And you're wide awake, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. You get over here. Where do you live? Where do you live? In the city or outside in New Jersey or New York?
Jersey.
Jersey. What town do you live in?
Jackson.
And he has no trouble speaking. No trouble at all. Then try to say your name. Try. 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 It gets worse. Try again. It gets harder than ever.
John.
Finally got it out. Give me a hand. He finally got it out. Isn't that wild? Isn't that crazy? You couldn't say it. Now I'm going to ask you all to stand. Stand up. Would people come back here and hold the backs of their chairs? Can we have people to stand and hold the backs of their chairs, please? And you ladies, just so they brace, let the backs of your legs touch those chairs. The backs of your legs touch those chairs. You're going to all momentarily, I didn't do this with you earlier, find yourself sitting down. Your legs are, now you're not going to fall because the chairs are there. But it's like, you know, don't worry. There he goes. There it's happening already. Close your eyes, all of you, the rest of you standing. And notice how fast you start getting pulled back, back in the chair. Your knees are bending, you let your knees bend, there you go. Sitting down, back, all the way, sit down, all the way back. And I always like to leave one who doesn't respond. That's the power of a suggestion. All right, folks? Thank you, everybody. All right.
Absolutely amazing. Wouldn't you say, gang? We have one other quick thing we want to show you. Of course, he had his series for a number of years, The Amazing World of Kreskin, but also that is available now on Hulu, which is exciting. And here's a promo he did going back a ways, which is kind of cool. I think you'll enjoy it.
Howdy, I'm Kreskin, and I've never claimed to be a psychic or a fortune teller. Indeed, everything I do is accomplished by perfectly natural and scientific means. And yet on my program, The Amazing World of Kreskin, we investigate man's greatest enigma, the mysteries of the human mind. So join me, if you will, Wednesday nights at 7:30 here on Television 9 for the magic of thought, both yours and mine. And thank you.
And here he is live and direct from New Jersey, USA, the amazing Kreskin. Welcome, Kreskin. An honor and a pleasure to have you on the Jim Masters Show.
I'm going to have you at my wake. No, I'm only kidding. The reason I'm kidding you is we don't have the film of it right now, but there's a certain cemetery here in New Jersey, near actually Caldwell, and this little scene has been seen all over the world. It was seen in England and Spain, Italy, what have you, because I decided I'm paying for the damn thing. So I designed my stone, and more celebrities have come, because it's not far from Caldwell, New Jersey, maybe 10 minutes away. More celebrities have stood by it and had their pictures taken with it, because there's only one thing missing, and that's the second date. And understand, I'm 87 years old now, and it was neat that you mentioned, because the pilots tell me in the airline industry that very few pilots probably have flown that many, but I have flown over 3.5 million miles in my entire life, all over the world.
Unbelievable.
And I finally decided at 87, I did this a few months ago, I decided to announce my retirement. I'm retiring 4 days after I pass away. But since I have no plans and I'm as active as ever, as everyone in the business says, boy, if you knew him well enough, that's not going to be for years to come.
Right.
I still jog every night for 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, and I've done it for 50 years. But my career, and I appreciate the intro you gave me. And you are, by the way, I'm sometime when I'm on with you in person, I'm going to interview you, because I have to tell you, Jim, you're a remarkable person. You've had tremendous amount of experience in this field, in the news area, and then when you do a show like this, you mention an area of television which unfortunately has disappeared to a large degree, and that is the art of conversation. But part of that picture is, and I have lectured on this aside from my performances before special groups and what have you, we are losing the ability to communicate with each other, because men and women no longer listen to what people say anymore. And children have been taught not to do this, because first of all, if you want to destroy a culture, you want to break down a culture, you create less and less chance for young people as they're growing to meet with other people and communicate, whether it's an excuse of a terrible dilemma or an outer space thing, or something as stupid as some disease that makes you stay inside a house when it's just as healthy to be outside the house and breathing fresh air. I'm being sarcastic, and I want to understand I don't mock politicians. I just wish that most of them had been on the Titanic.
Yeah.
doing this all over the world. So people are not, sociologists have said they're not communication. We need to sit down with each other. It's a wonderful device. It's a tremendous device, and that's a cell phone. But it also is a diabolical device that has wreaked havoc in our culture. Because now, and sit as I did with a group of producers in a restaurant this past year, and I'm telling them the story, and they said, Kreskin, we wish we had a camera here. Look at that table over there. There were tables, it was lunchtime, and there were like 7 or 8 students at the table, college-age students. Conversing? No. They were all talking into their cell phones. Because now you understand, as young people, to get an answer to a question, even in some study thing you're doing, you just can ask the cell phone, you get an instantaneous answer, and they put the cell phone down. Years ago, you had to research it, you read more about it, you looked into the background, and very, very often, even when you went out with someone, when you got home and sat down, you sat back and reflected upon what you saw and heard of that conversation. Empathy is one of the greatest gifts that man has, and it is disappearing in our society.
You sound so much like me. I say this every day, all the time, whether it's on the air or off the air, that kindness and empathy and respect are so important. The art of conversation is important, and the art of reflection. We're always going forward so quickly that we're not taking time to reflect on the moments that we just experienced, the fabulous moments, even the not so fabulous moments that we have teachable moments that we can learn from. I think what you're talking about and the message you're delivering is perfection, Kreskin.
Jim, you know, one of the most beautiful words in my degree is in psychology. I don't brag about this because when I was going to Seton Hall University, one season and one of the courses I had to take for my degree in psychology, I think I missed all but 6 classes of an entire year. But the university and the heads of the university said, this man is working all over the place. He's on television, what have you, and he seems to know so much about the mind. I don't mean this braggishly, but the head of the Department of Psychology and some people who work on the Today Show, one of the men that worked on the Today Show says, Kreskin, I was in that class. If anybody doubts me, I can tell them it's true. It's my first year. I'm in my teens. I'm already performing, but I'm now studying psychology. And within about a month or so, he had me teach for 6 or 7 weeks the entire class of psychology. He says, Kreskin, you've had more experience than we have had in this. Tell us more of what you're doing, because we don't understand the area you're in. But empathy is one of the greatest gifts man has. Yes. And empathy is the ability to feel the way someone else feels. And you don't want to throttle that and stifle that in children, because children at first look and then they wonder about the person and guess and so forth. But later on, we can do something very, very effective, and that's listen, not to this, but listen to our own thoughts. And when I jog, and everybody knows this, I have never worn earphones because I hear my inner thoughts. That's some of the most creative moments. I've written 22 books, and they're not fiction books. I'm not talented in that way, but I've written about my career, because my career, you know, from touring 5.5 years of Saudi Arabia, stories I could tell you. And then early in my career, a psychologist came to me, Dr. Harold Hansen, a brilliant, wonderful man. And he said to me, I was in your audience tonight, Kreskin, and my shows run from an hour to 2.5 hours in length, what have you. And he said, I want to hire you to work with my patients. I said, well, you know, I don't have my degree yet in psychology. I finally was given an honorary degree by Seton Hall. He says, I don't care about that. Your ability to tune in on people, I think it could be of help. So for 8 years, I had an office in New Jersey, in Essex County, New Jersey, and it was right next to his. And I saw as many as 30 patients a week. I only saw each one of them for an hour or whatever the time and so forth. Then when I was about 18, he said to me, you know, your work is taking on a tremendous load. You're appearing everywhere, and sometimes you're away for a month and what have you. It's time that you go on with your career, and I don't want to take away from it. But I had incredible experiences with him. I was almost murdered by one of his patients who became psychotic. It's a very dramatic story because
Yeah.
he told me, he says, Kreskin, when the people took this person away, he says, you can tell the story anywhere you wish. I was in my office and I didn't have a patient at that time. And I've heard people are now learning about this because they're saying, we have to hear about this because there's got to be a movie made about your career that's larger than only performing on the stage. I heard a strange noise. And it sounded like it was coming from Dr. Hansen's office. I opened the door and I said, Harold, are you okay? And he didn't answer. There was no answer. And I thought, the one thing you don't do with a clinical professional psychologist, you don't open the door and interrupt his therapy with the patient and what have you. But I went to the door and I said, Harold, is everything all right? And finally I opened the door. I looked in. I walked inside and there was Dr. Hansen, who was only about 5'4". He was a short man, 5'5", standing there with blood pouring out of his right eye and blood pouring out of his left ear, pouring out. And the patient was on the other side of the desk. He'd obviously gone psychotic. And he started coming towards me. And people say to you, what do you do, Kreskin? What did you do with such a dangerous situation? And what did Dr. Hansen say? You can tell the story anywhere you wish. Well, you don't start to sit down and reason, what am I going to do and so forth. You have to treat this the way you would if you were in battle, a military situation. Because in battle, the military man doesn't have time to think and figure out what to do. He's been trained so much that unconsciously he moves. He doesn't have time to be killed, what have you. And 7, 8 minutes later, that patient, and yours truly, was sitting on the floor in this office, and he was playing and petting and cuddling a dog that he had had 40 years ago. I found this out about him, and I caused him to hallucinate that animal, and he became extremely calm until officials came in and carried him away. So the stories that have happened in my life are
amazing.
And these are not toy stories. The reason, you mentioned some of the early people in broadcasting. You mentioned Merv Griffin and Mike Douglas, who I revered tremendously, and
yes,
and then of course the person who was the master of late night television, that was Johnny Carson, with whom I did 88 shows. And
yes, you did. There's one of the photos. Yeah.
The stories I could tell you. By the way, it just came out, because I would never talk about it. It came out in the press about 2 or 3 months ago. Carson's gone now, and he was the master of nighttime television.
Yes.
And, he had a rule that he never allowed a guest that was on his night in his office before the show, even if he was tremendous fans of them, if he knew them well, if he had a great rapport with them and so forth. One day he sat with me. He said to me, Kreskin, there's a reason behind this, because I bring in a comedian, and I'm close to a lot of these comedians. I know them very well. And suddenly I mention something, they say something that's crazy and funny.
Yeah.
If you want it to be said on the air, but the wisdom he had. And how many people in broadcasting today in radio and TV say, I've learned something from you, Kreskin.
Right.
The reason he never had them on again is you repeat something funny like that a second time, it doesn't have the feel, the spontaneity of it at all. He would rather they came up with it out of nowhere if he didn't know about it. People could say, well, how is he going to handle it? Because how many nighttime shows right now, and I know the crews on them that tell me, will repeat a scene over again because the person dropped something, knocked it over. Carson would never do that. He'd run with it. He'd have fun with it. That's the great art of communication. And I revered a person like him. And then the Mike Douglas show, of which I did more guest show appearances than anybody in history. Roger Ailes was the producer, and used to see it that they always had me talk about some issue that they wouldn't tell me about ahead of time, because they said, Kreskin, you have a way of looking at it. Even if you don't understand the thing, you have a way of humorously handling, or if you want to talk about it seriously, you talk about it seriously. So my life, to be honest with you, Jim, has been an adventure. It is an adventure, and I love my work. I mean, I'm performing now, and I'm active, as you can imagine, and I gave up drinking, which I never did to begin with, but because that's the other thing. That's the other thing. God forbid, folks, don't you ever let this become lost. We're losing our sense of humor in our culture. We're afraid to laugh. Seinfeld, look at the statement he made 2 years ago. A public statement that now 7 other comedians agree to. And he would never work in a university in the United States ever again. Now, I've done over 5,000 university shows in this country and Canada. But the reason why, can you believe this, folks? I hope you're sitting down, because I cannot believe such asinine stupidity and disgraceful behavior. Many of the major universities, if you're a comedian, they require that you supply your entire script so they can edit it and delete what they don't want to be said. Well, when I was a kid, and I'm 87 years old, and it was the Second World War, and Roosevelt was president, we didn't have television then, so we go to the theater and we'd see a movie, a sports thing, what have you, and then the newsreels. And there was Roosevelt sitting, and he's laughing, hitting his leg, because Bob Hope's mocking everything in sight. One of the great weapons we have of communication, no matter how stressful, is our ability to laugh at ourselves. And don't ever lose that.
Don't ever lose that is exactly right, my friend. You mentioned Johnny Carson, of course, the incomparable Johnny Carson, and we pay great honor and heed to the great, one of many of the television hosts and presenters over the years. Really, really, one of my personal favorites as well. But there's another story too that ties back to you, and it involves one of the greatest characters that was created, which is
tell that incident, how
Karnak.
it came about. Yeah, I'll tell you what happened.
This is cool.
When Johnny, when Steve Allen had the Tonight Show, and Steve Allen was a brilliant man, he was a great writer, and we became very close. He wanted, in his will, he wanted me to write something about the greatest broadcaster. He says, Kreskin, you know more about this man. And Mick Rooney, who on 60 Minutes said, I worked for that man, the most powerful person. And you folks who are studying communications, do what the college students do when they hear me mention him. Say, Kreskin, after the show, can you tell us more about him? The most powerful figure in the history of broadcasting was a man by the name of Arthur Godfrey.
Oh,
the stories
yes.
I can tell you would stun you.
Yes.
It would be beyond belief. But at the same time, so Steve Allen left the Tonight Show, and he went to Los Angeles and a late night show. The college students watched it. I did when I didn't have a show that night. I watched it because he was funny and humorous and what have you, and he read a lot. And Johnny Carson took over. And Steve Allen hears about me, flies me out to LA, and people didn't know me that well because I wasn't on all the major shows, what have you, then. And Steve Allen says, oh, this gentleman has an unusual gift. We're all interested in ESP. Would you welcome Kreskin? I didn't have the name Amazing. That was given me years later by Carson. So I walk out, and I'm looking towards the camera as I'm walking towards Steve Allen, who's standing by his dais at the other end. And in those days, in the 1960s, what have you, the lights in television were extremely hot, bright. And there was like 6 lamps around this camera that was moving, following me over. And as I get closer to Steve Allen, I am now blinded. And I go to shake hands with him. I miss his hand, trip over the dais, and fall flat on my face. Well, my family, just so you know, my family, Jim, considers that the highlight of my career. But at the same time, Steve Allen said, I said, I'm fine. Carson watched that show that night because he heard a Mentalist was going to be on. He saw that incident. 8 weeks later, he created Karnak, the Magnificent. And if you remember when Karnak comes on, he bumps into the table and his falls off on the table. In the last show I did with John, it was a very sad thing. He didn't belabor that he was retiring, but it had gone somewhat in the press. I walk on, it's my 80th some show, what have you. I said, John, you know, You mean an awful lot to me. You've created the word amazing, which where I go now, I'm now titled that, and that's, you started that. And I said, and you've mentioned me so many times, even when I'm not on the show. And he said,
Yeah.
oh, the mighty Karnak. So you
Yeah.
can't find incidents, experiences. Oh, but
Yeah. That's amazing. He did that because
by the way, he didn't know, so he didn't meet anyone before the show, but it got on the news. There were 2 exceptions. The only 2 people he ever allowed in his dressing room before the show was Orson Welles and yours truly. So I have some great memories of him.
It's amazing that he sort of created that name. He did the same with Don Rickles with the Mr. Warmth. Same thing.
Same thing. And Rickles,
that's a badge of honor. Yeah.
I admire him so much. But Rickles revered him because he's a very loyal man. He heard everything taking place in that studio, every direction and every camera, because his hearing. I have an incredible hearing, but I don't brag about it because it drives me crazy. I can sit in a restaurant and hear 12 conversations at once. And I've been called in by police because I've worked on 150, probably over 200 crime cases. We have to give something back in our lives for any success we have. And I've been, my brother was a policeman 19 years or so. And I worked for police through the years, and they are very, very valued in our lives. We cannot to be fun and do things like that. I'm sorry, I don't even want to comment about that.
Tell us a little bit about the early years for you. I mean, as a kid, did your folks realize this talent, these gifts that you had? When was it really first noticed, discovered, and then you started to move ahead with it? It's fascinating.
I'll tell you a story which is a little known, and now I'm doing. I had a program, a performance, a very special one in Pennsylvania a couple of days ago, and some of the people came from Hollywood and what have you to see my show, and we're in the audience. But they said, Kreskin, the show was supposed to be an hour and 15 minutes. It ran for 2 hours, close to 2 hours, because I was told anecdotes in my career, and they said, Kreskin, your story, this is, it should be coming to see you perform should be an experience, not just a witnessing something. Well, let me tell you, not well, little known, but a little known. When I was given a comic book when I was a kid, I could read when I was 5 years old. My mother would sit me next to her and she'd read the comics, and one was called Mandrake the Magician. And Mandrake wasn't a magician. He had hypnotic abilities, telepathic abilities. He solved crimes. He fought crimes and what have you. And the comic fascinated me as she's reading this. I'm 5 years old. So we go out and play cops and robbers and what have you. I didn't play the detective or Superman. I played Mandrake, who with my friends, I was solving these crimes and stopping the criminal from doing the wrong thing and what have you. And then 3rd grade, Miss Curtis was our teacher. It was raining outside, and she said, folks, you're not going to go out and play. It's raining too heavily. I'm going to teach you a game. And she picked someone from our class, 3rd grade class. Jane Hamilton was the name. She said, Jane, go out in the hallway and wait there. We're going to close the door so you can't see what's going on or hear. And we hid a beanbag somewhere in the room, a cloth beanbag. We put it in someone's desk. She called Jane Hamilton in and she said, Jane, walk around. When you're near where it is hidden, we'll say you're getting warm. When you're not near, you're getting cold, hot and cold, whatever. And she got close, and then we said hot, hot, and she found it. And I was obsessed with the game, and I wanted to play it, but I wasn't picked. I'm walking home, and my brother, who was 3 years younger, was already home from school. I said, let's go over to Grandma and Grandpa's house. They were from Sicily. I loved them dearly, grandparents from, and they didn't speak much English. They were wonderful. So I said, the grandfather built a 2-story house. They lived upstairs. They rented the downstairs to make ends meet in New Jersey. I said, Joe, take the penny or the nickel, go upstairs and hide it in Grandma's house. I wanted to play the game. He calls me because I'm outside, standing on Roseland Avenue waiting here. He says, come on up here. I've hidden it. So I run up the steps. Grandma is sitting behind a tremendous wide table because she often served 12 and 18 people for dinner on Sundays. My grandfather was working, and I meander. She doesn't know what's going on. I meander into the kitchen, pull the drapes to my right, and I'm walking into my uncle's bedroom. He's at work. And I find myself coming to a wooden chair and climbing up on it and reaching upward, because I'm short, but I'm on a wooden chair. And I reach behind the curtain rod and I suddenly feel the penny, and I found it. As I walk into the kitchen, it dawned on me. I forgot to tell my brother to talk to me. I didn't tell anybody to talk to me. Nobody spoke a word. No one said a single word. Well, this got around the family. In a private affairs, I was asked to do this. And then by the time I was in fifth grade, I was already performing. Miss Galloway in fourth and sixth grade set aside 1 hour every Friday for me to perform with my classmates. And by the time I was in my teens, I was doing private shows and local shows. And then in ninth grade, I walked out on stage. And I was my ninth grade, my first high school class. And there I did a 2.5 hour show. I was now performing already, traveling everywhere you can imagine. So my career has literally been an adventure, and I can't tell you. Do I have a moment to plug something? Is it chance?
Oh, you have plenty of time. Yeah, we have a lot of cool things to show everybody. Yes.
By the way, you'll get a kick out of this. This magazine is called 40 Times. And if the editors in England did not send it to me, I would have never known about it. But the British people have been fans of mine. And they sent me the cover of it is games where a lot of games were tremendously successful. And the biggest success was Kreskin's ESP game, which came out. This was in around early when I was around 18 or so, and it sold in 1 year over 1 million games. But I didn't realize it until later on. It turns out a 2-page article about me in the magazine. So it's so I think it's almost due to resurrect that game, because it sold over 1 million games, and people seem to have a joy in reacting with each other. Now I got to tell you, oh, by the way, there's a quick book here.
There's that game on the screen, Kreskin. Amazing, huh? What did you think when Milton Bradley approached you and said, "We want to do this"?
It was the commercial. The commercial was imitated even by Carson and things. They did funny things with the commercial because I was showing the game and talking about it and doing something dramatic with it. But then I got to tell you, of the 22 books I've written, this is the most recent. Most of my books are all hardbound books, but this is oh, by the way, this is a book about my career, which parents are reading to their kids because there's paintings in it which tell the story of my life that are almost as graphic as the print. However, I want to get back to something. When I found that penny, within 10, 12 years later, became a feature of my career that's been written about all over the world. I've done in countries like Japan, where my entire audience did not speak English, but it's one of the features of my career. And all my shows, if they're full performings, I'm not talking about television, there will be time, we gather from the audience 4 to 6 people whom I never met. I hand them my check, my fee for the entire performance. 2 of the committee members escort me out of the auditorium into a lobby, or if it's not bad weather, outdoors, or Carnegie Hall. They took me down into the cellar because Carnegie Hall is like 4 balconies. But the understanding is when I'm out of the building, my check is to be hidden anywhere in that entire auditorium, so long as it's not a danger to me anywhere in the auditorium. And the committee is to come back to the stage, and the ushers are to come and get me. One usher with a couple of witnesses has taken me out of the building and guarded me. If it's an outdoor show of like 8,000 people, what have you, they have a truck on the stage off to the side. I'm taken into the truck. The windows are all papered shut, and a policeman and 2 other members of the audience guard me so they see I can't see what's going on. When I come back in, no questions asked. No questions at all. No one speaks to me. I admonish the committee, or 1 or 2 of the committee, to concentrate on what they've done but say nothing. If I don't find my fee, if I do not find physically my fee that was hidden, I forfeit the entire fee. The entire amount goes back to the organization that booked me, and the show is for free. I've done it. I failed now. People have asked 11, 12 times, but that's not too many out of 4 to 6,000 times. But the interesting thing about it is, and I lost in one show $22,000. But the interesting thing is the incidents. Colleges are fascinating when they hide things. It was a gymnasium. I was outdoors because the place was filled. It was a family weekend, and the teachers were there, and the parents were there, and the students were there. Some were sitting on the floor because they didn't have chairs for everyone. I come back into the gymnasium, walk down the aisle, I'm almost tripping over people. I turn towards someone. It's an elderly gentleman. I thought maybe he's a father, grandfather. I said, I hope this doesn't bother you, sir. Would you open your mouth? Well, I had him close my mouth, his mouth. I closed his mouth. I felt like a cheap jerk. And I'm saying, sorry, sir. And I walked towards the stage where there was a platform built and the other committee members were standing. I said, let me pick one more person as a subject to concentrate. Would you concentrate? Think of what I need to do. Just don't say anything. I walk to the audience. I suddenly freeze and I turn around. So help me God, it's the same person as I stopped before. I said, sir, if I'm embarrassing you, just sit down within 1 minute and I have failed. I've lost my check. Would you open your mouth? He does.
Wow.
I said, does this have to do anything to do with the roof of your mouth? I wish we had a video camera then there. It would have been a priceless sight.
Absolutely.
Mouth, took out his upper plates and handed me my check. So all over the world, if you heard the stories, the drama, and people in show business who know me, entertainers, actors, they say, Kreskin, you're insane to do this. How can you stand the pressure? Because it is tremendous pressure. Even the other night, I was close to failing. We're finding it because there were carpets in the room. The room hadn't been finished, and it was a room of 80-some people from different parts, and people from showbiz, what have you. And I almost tripped on one of the rugs and twice almost fell. Finally, 14 minutes later, and you could hear a pin drop, I'd almost tripped. I find myself kneeling down, and I pulled back the rug I had tripped on. There was the check, and the people stood and applauded. It took that whole incident took 14 minutes, and they said, Kreskin, it was like a suspense situation.
Yes.
So and by the way, real quick, I'm going to tell you, who would have ever dreamt this? I couldn't even predict this. I made some dramatic predictions. A book has been written called The Adventures of Little Billy in Search of the Magic Tree. It's been written by Barry Farber, who's a remarkable writer. But what's wonderful about this book is he has 6 characters in it. But one is a tree, one is an owl, one is a stuffed doll, one is a turtle, what have you. And they each communicate as animals in simple language. And it's teaching the youngster whom the book is being read to how to communicate and feel towards others and what have you. Well, he gave names to each of these characters. And some of the people are from, they're in show business. They are. Bosco the Bears play, Bobby Collins is him. Not that you hear them talking, you just hear the dialogue. Sherman the Turtle is Otis the Jerome. And the magic tree, which they're searching for, is the Amazing Kreskin. So I the first time I've been part of a, should we say, a children's fiction thing. However,
incredible.
Coming to television, soon to be an animated series, and the date now has been announced. On April 9th, the animated TV special will begin of a series in which you will hear my voice playing the character. Isn't that refreshing to be a character in a cartoon series?
Yes, it is. It's fantastic, my friend. It's absolutely fantastic. Speaking of television, and you obviously have had a prolific career in television, and we have a little bit of evidence of that. Take a look at this,
Oh my
gang.
God.
The Amazing World of Kreskin.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Amazing Kreskin.
This, I think, was in England.
Sometimes I really get the feeling, folks, that we've done this before. But that's because, of course, we're in the 5th year of a series. And it's pretty rare that anything that I do by pure sleight of hand, admittedly, in this particular case, not by my ability as a mentalist, but by pure sleight of hand, it's very rare that I place it at a point at the very end of my program. But I've got to in what you're about to see, because, folks, it's never been done by any sleight of hand artists. It's something that I created. And you're going to realize that it's got to be the dream of every gambler in the world. So take a chance, folks, and stay tuned.
What was it like having your own television series like that, my friend? That must have been really fantastic, huh?
It was exciting, and but you know what made it second nature to me, because the show, the series was originated out of Canada, and but then the show started being seen in the United States Saturday nights, and in England. And I reached the point where I was to do the show flying to London every Thursday and flying home every Tuesday for one entire year, because I wanted to be home a certain amount of time, because businesses was going on in the area with bookings that were being planned and what have you. So I was on plane all the time. But the truth of the matter is, because I was creative in my work in schools and doing shows every week, it became a second nature to me. I got calls sometimes from Merv Griffin, who was doing a live show in New York City around 8 o'clock at night, 8:15 at night, and Arthur Treacher was his announcer. And I remember one night I got a call. It was 20 minutes after 8. They said, Kreskin, so-and-so is ill and couldn't come up. We're on for 50 more minutes or 40 more minutes. Can you get here in time? And I'll never forget, about 20 minutes of the hour, walking into the studio. They said, walk on the set, walking on the air, and then Griffin hugging me because I got there in time. And I planned what I was going to do just in the drive in. That's I think about my work. It's part of my life. And to me, it's just a natural thing. But I think what the great excitement about my work is that the key factor that I work with in my abilities is the human mind. And it never ceases to tell me how remarkable the quality of people can be. The human mind is an incredible gift. And I read 4 books a night when I'm at home. And you could say, well, that's crazy. Yeah, it takes me 20 minutes to read a novel, what have you. But no, I don't skim read. I can't afford to skim read. I see the entire word, which you can learn to see entire words in almost a paragraph at one time. And I don't brag about that. But people send me books endlessly to please review it so we can put it on the cover or the commentary and what have you. So my life just doesn't cease at any particular time.
Somebody, one of our viewers watching live, our lovely viewers on the Jim Masters show here, Veronica Lee in Australia, says, do you consider your skills to be in any way spiritually based?
That's a beautiful question, because my family, and very few people know this, my family thought I was going to become a Catholic priest. And only a handful of the family thought this, because most of them knew my life was going to be in show business. I was already amazing people, what have you. But my religion became very close to me, and I came to know a man. It was one of the most remarkable gifts of my life. I got to know him well. And folks, do yourself a favor. It doesn't matter what your religion is, because when he was on television, I knew Jewish people who watched him every week. I knew people who were atheists that watched him, because his communication was remarkable. We got very close. That was Bishop Fulton J. Sheen, who was a Catholic bishop who should have been a pope or what have you. But in truth, they all knew, even Bishop Sheen knew, no, my life was as an entertainer and what have you. So the spiritualness of my life and the good Lord has been very, very special to me. But I never stopped to reflect and realize that I wasn't here just spontaneously by some accident. There was something within me that was meant to be. And I am thankful that my gift has strengthened, because no one really taught me what to do, but by tremendous mistakes. And I get sick and tired of this business in some of the schools of avoiding kids, letting them see that they failed on a test, or they missed in this, or they had to compete, because there's some schools that don't allow games to be played where someone can win. You learn more when you fail than when you succeed.
Yes. Some of the most successful people in the world failed miserably, and then they dusted themselves
some of the
off.
most successful did.
Yes. It's called resilience. They develop resilience, and it's a really a beautiful thing. And you have resilience as well to be doing this all these years and continuing, my friend. It continues to be an extraordinary and fascinating career. I was mentioning when we were at that VIP gala event just before the pandemic in New York City. You were an invited VIP guest. I was as well, and several other of our mutual friends and colleagues. But when you walked in the room, everybody started going to you away from the person that was being celebrated. They were so amazed. Wait a minute. Is that the Amazing Kreskin? Wait a minute. I remember him from this show and this show, and it was really a fabulous night.
I have a show, by the way, coming up on April 1st. The reason I say April 1st is that's April Fool's Day. And they have no idea what I'm going to do, because these aren't tricks or what have you. But I'm going to, with using suggestion and the power of the mind, I'm going to do some of the wildest things, and the press is going to be there. That's going to be at the in April at the Town and Country Inn in Keyport, New Jersey. By the way, April 19th, the animated TV special is going to be on the New Jersey cable station's YouTube channel and thousands of school websites around the United States, because from your success and how you've built your career, how these websites can be so valuable. I do something every Tuesday. I record at 8 p.m. on YouTube, and you can look at it now, you can look at it tomorrow, what have you. And it's titled "What's on My Mind," and I refer to things that I'm concerned about and what have you. And they're not all serious. Some are very light, but I like to share them with us. And by the way, I don't know everything. I would say most of the knowledge of the world I know hardly anything about, and very little about anything else. But I listen and I tune in and I learn endlessly.
What is something that's on your mind, light or otherwise, right now, that is, something that you're been going back and forth on?
I'm very concerned about, of course, we're all concerned about the world and the peace in the world and what have you. But I'm very concerned about youngsters, because, folks, it's the first time in all history, except for going to a newsreel, that now people can watch on television, and not that we shouldn't watch it, because it's a terrible evil taking place, but we now can see horrendous warlike calamity live in person. And as a kid, I saw newsreels, but never in the immediate person. Don't for one moment, folks, and I'm not saying children should see that. I think some of their time should be issued to other things, but you must understand and treat them with a compassion and a love, and let them know that you feel warmth and kindness towards them, and some sadness for those who are suffering. We don't want to lose our emotional states, but as far as seeing more endlessly, I don't think a kid can quite absorb that and quite understand that. That's a very tough price to climb.
Absolutely. It really, really is. And, there's a lot of concerns out there. With your background and your experience, have you ever been frightened by what you are envisioning, what's coming to you, the information, the energy? Has it ever caused you to give great pause to it? Some of the
I will
incredible
tell you,
experiences.
I will tell you a story that's just come out in the past year. And for many months, I couldn't figure out how this could happen. I've traveled a great deal, and a lot of times been on planes. And I went to bed late this particular night in New Jersey, in Essex County, and I overslept. I woke up, and ironically enough, I had no road manager that day. I don't know the full story, how whether the road manager was ill or what have you, but I always have someone traveling with me to help with the luggage and everything else and connect and what have you. So I got out of bed. I ate something real fast and packed I took 2 suitcases, ran to the car and drove. And I was flying out of Newark Airport. And for some bizarre reason, I do not understand why to this day. I took a detour to Newark Airport. I'd gone there hundreds of times. This is before, and you didn't have to go through as much security as you do today. So I get to Newark Airport, and I'm running through the gate areas and what have you, because you didn't have as much security then. And I go up to the counter, put my luggage down. They knew me immediately because they see me like every other day and what have you. I said, I got to take this flight out and so forth. And so they make out the ticket. They took my luggage. They make out the ticket. They say, Kreskin, you better hurry. I run through, and this is not where the airline is now, but it was in a more remote area. And I run through the hallways, and I come to the entrance, which leads to outside to the field, in time to see my plane taking off. There I stood, holding the ticket, winding my way back, frustrated because for all my luggage is probably on that plane. And I get to the counter, they say, Kreskin, we were afraid you got here too late today. You missed your flight. The luggage is on the plane, but you missed it. I said, yeah. I said, I've got a show tonight. They said, no, we can connect for you. We'll get you to the town. It was a small town out in New York. I got the ticket. I flew out. I get to the town. The gentleman picks me up. He says, well, you've missed your other flight. I said, yeah. Drives me to the venue. It's a nightclub there. And I'm getting ready for the show. I couldn't change to my tuxedo. Those clothes were in the other suitcase and what have you. And now I'm in my dressing room. It's a full packed house. Gentleman's introducing me. And just before he finishes, there's a knock on the dressing room door. I said, who in the world would bother me at this point? I'm going on stage. My mind, I open the door, and 2 policemen walk in. They had my luggage in their hand. I said, they said, you're Kreskin, aren't you? I said, yes. They said, we found out this luggage. We traced it and called your house, and they told us where you were going to be. And we thought you could use this luggage. I said, my God, what happened? They said, Kreskin, had you taken that plane, it crashed in a cow pasture in New York State. We found amongst all the debris this luggage and felt that you would appreciate and deserve to have this. To this day, what made me miss a flight, and yet I doubly missed it because I didn't have my road manager and I took a detour. And it's the only flight I've ever missed in my life, unless it was for other reasons that didn't do with me. And I had no reasoning to do it. So things like that, I can't explain everything that happens in my life.
That's incredible. I mean, it sounds like a Twilight Zone episode where the plane
This
was
is very much-
missed. Yeah, right. And crashed. That is absolutely incredible. A couple of more.
I was shaken. Yeah, I was shaken for many days because I couldn't understand what happened.
Oh, I would imagine. Absolutely, Kreskin.
No
Yeah.
survivor. I didn't go to that now. But anyway.
Frank S. Says Kreskin is cool. I agree. And he says, Jim, can you ask him about the great Buck Howard?
Well, The Great Buck Howard was a movie that Tom Hanks produced.
Yes.
And the gentleman who wrote the movie worked for me as a road manager. And after that, he wanted to get into movies, not as performing, but as a writer. And he wrote this script. I didn't know he was writing it. Finally, an actress was in the movie, and I can't think of her name right now, forgive me. She calls me, someone that knows her calls me on the phone and said, so-and-so would like to talk to you. Oh, no, it wasn't her. I was backstage at a place, and this girl comes backstage after the show and says, Kreskin, you'd better look into something because a movie's being made, and the character that's being played is based on you. And I said, I didn't know this. They said, we think that you should know about this because they keep mentioning your behavior and what have you, and how you act and what have you. So finally, I get to know about the movie, and it turns out that Tom Hanks is producing the movie, one of the nicest men you'd ever want to meet, and so forth. So opening night of the movie, it's not a biography, but John Malkovich literally plays me because opening night on Broadway, when the movie's Hanks in the late afternoon, we're going through the red carpet, and Hanks pulls me over to the side, says, Kreskin, he hugs me and says, thank you for letting my son play your manager in the movie. I said, I haven't even seen the movie yet. He said, well, let me tell you the good and the bad part about making the movie. That didn't sound like Tom Hanks. I said, yeah, Tom, what do you mean? He said, well, the good side is, John Malkovich, he was obsessed playing you. I said, yeah, whenever I was around him, he wouldn't look at me. He said he probably was self-conscious that maybe he was worried that he was doing the right job. He said, that's the good part. He watched days after days of movies of you. I said, yes. He said, let me tell you the bad part. One day, the whole crew is there. And he decides, I don't want to, no, we're not going to record just yet. And he has Hanks come over and says, Tom, I just want to shake your hands. Now, my handshake is legendary. It's an up and down handshake that's legendary. And he said, Malkovich shook hand with each of us from 5 to 10 minutes at a time, nonstop. We needed chiropractors the day after. He wanted to get the handshake down, and he literally got it because it became mocked by everybody from Carson to Merv Griffin, and Mike Douglas used to go crazy and say, I need my arm. But can you imagine? And that came out of the movie.
That is incredible. I tell you, that really, really is incredible.
I have stories about my career and almost everything. That's why I was able to write 22 books, because I've had so many incidents, and because I'm dealing with others and people find them exciting and refreshing, what have you, it makes it all the more interesting. Like the time, and in the adventures of the Amazing Kreskin, I was in a university, and I'm going to show a picture because when I was searching for my check, I went to the balcony. It was an old theater. University couldn't put the people in the regular theater, so they used this old theater. And you know how the old theaters had boxes that extended off the edge of the second level or third level that you could sit in with your people and watch the show like you were almost with nothing in the way. And the Carnegie Hall has some boxes like that upstairs and what have you.
That's right.
And I end up on the second floor, walking behind a man who's sitting there evidently with his family. And the box, the booth had a rod attached to it, stretching about 6 feet or 5 feet over the audience. And the light was turned towards the stage. I guess because it was an old theater, they felt that they wanted more lighting. So a number of the boxes had that. And I had the image that it was in that light. I would never do this ever again. But stupidly, I started to reach over the ledge to grab a box that was 4 feet beyond my reach. And I reached over and fell and plummeted out of the box. The audience screamed and jumped up. And the man, I'll never forget this as long as I live, as I fell out of the box freely, not holding on to anything, swung his arm under my jacket and caught my belt And there I ended up swinging. He saved either my life or my neck or my back or what have you.
Wow.
He came upstairs, carried me to the stage where they lay me on the stage. You know, they had to get me to a room. They had to bring in medical people because I sprained my back very badly. And I kept saying, I got to get to the stage. Finally, they say, you're crazy. I get me a broom. They got me a broom with a wide base. I put the broom under my arm and I walked out on stage for the second half of the show. And at that entire audience, only 8 people had left. They all stayed there worrying that I could be okay. Can you imagine this diagram in the book? Because can you imagine falling out of there I am. But in this case, it wasn't my holding on to that. A man held on to my belt. Talk about, I've been very, very blessed. And by the way, folks, I want to make this, I want to just promise this in all respect for Jim Masters and my respect for all of you. Sometime when I'm on the air with him in person, I promise you, I dare not read his thoughts. That's all right. If we can laugh, we got to chuckle.
Absolutely, my friend. That's so important. You've got to do that. You know, there's somebody else that I knew as a good guy and had the opportunity to commiserate with on multiple occasions. The one and only Regis Philbin.
Oh, I love Regis.
I know for you, he meant a great deal to you as well. Tell us about how important Regis Philbin was to you.
Yeah, you could tell he was a wonderful man. He reflected the old style of talk show hosts and so forth, because he really was interested in the people that he met. He felt a compassion for them, and he felt the wonderment of having such a tremendous, gigantic success. There's really never been anyone on with him that quite compared with him. And he and I were very, very close, because whenever I would do the show, I mean, half the time I'd be on half the show, him talking about the latest incident where I appeared just before or whatever happened. So I miss him very, very much, because you don't, his show was not mechanical. It was that was Regis. That's the way Regis felt about things. And he liked people, and sometimes he disagreed about things. And he said, you know, I didn't care for this that much, but this movie, but I still like the people who performed in it. One of the finest people that you saw in broadcasting. And he really, he redefined the art of communication, which, by the way, today, as I said before, has diminished and disappeared more and more in the business. Because if you get people who are concerned about, did this go that well? Should we do the thing over again? Or and they're more concerned about that. Then Regis had a gift, and that he listened intensely to what the person had to say.
Yes.
And if he saw signs that there was something bothering him, he'd say, "You feel all right, or is there something you want to talk about?" And if there was something, and there were times when I discussed things that were maybe troubling, or I was worried about some things going on in the business, I would comment to him, and he would show genuine interest and kindness about it. I can't think of many people right now who do that in broadcasting, let alone that you can trust a story that someone tells about a political situation as to whether it's true or not true. Because the amount of stories I've told that have been totally made up and told me by the people who made them up is kind of sad.
It's really amazing, isn't it? It's crazy stuff. Yeah, Toby wanted to know, have you had a brush of death on more than one occasion? Has that happened sometimes? Toby's watching in California.
The brush of death had the closest was the two that I mentioned to you. The one when I fell out of the booth, because if it weren't for that man, I probably wouldn't be performing today. I would have probably broken my back or what have you. Yes. And the other close touch of death was, of course, the situation where I saved Dr. Hansen from what could have been a disaster, and also saved my life for it as well. I remember I did a show a couple of years ago in another state, and I said, someone told me that this gentleman is in the audience. Where is he? And this young man came up from the audience, came up on stage and shook hands with me. I said, my God, I haven't seen you. I haven't seen you since the accident. Would you want to tell the story? He said, I would be glad to, Kreskin. He was jogging as a teenager, maybe in his late teens, through town in New Jersey, in a town of Caldwell. And a man came through and hit him, and he flipped over and landed on his back, and the car took off, what have you, and that was it. And this woman came screaming hysterically, and they got help from him. And I was not there when this happened. A few hours later, the police come to my home. They found I'm at home that day. They said, Kreskin, we have 3 witnesses of a crime, a tragic crime. The young man is in the hospital now. We don't think he has a broken back, but it was very serious. Would you maybe see these people and see if you can get some information? Well, the first lady I met, they were elderly. I couldn't work with her. She got hysterical because she kept seeing the car hit the young man. The second lady I was able to work with, and as I relaxed her, caused her memory to heighten, and she remembered some details of the license. The third lady, the same thing. I was able to do something, and between the two of them, I got the entire license plate number. And we called the police immediately, and they put out an alert. And the next day, that car was found in Connecticut, in the state of Connecticut. The person who committed the crime and the hit and run took off with this car, which I believe could have been a stolen one. I'm not that part. I'm not certain of it, but it was out there, and they caught the car and they caught the man, and that solved the case. And justice came as rightfully it should. A month and a half later, my brother, who was a policeman then, comes to the house and said, there's 2 offers. I said, okay, maybe it's a crime case. They said, he said, I don't think it is, but they didn't want to talk about it. They walk in, I said, oh, aren't you the 2 gentlemen who saw me a few months ago when I saw that gentleman that I couldn't work with? They said, yes, Kreskin. I said, I'm sorry. You felt he was exposed to a lot of crime, and he okayed my seeing him, but I couldn't seem to tap into his mind. They said, maybe it's a good thing you weren't able to. I said, what do you mean? He said, the case that you worked on a couple of weeks ago? I said, yes. That person, the hit and run person, was the person that you saw a month or so before that you weren't able to work with. And maybe it's better you weren't able to work with him, because we learned he is a key member of the mafia.
Wow.
I unearthed information that coming to me, and what could have happened spontaneously,
Yes.
could have been a disaster. So I have crazy stories.
That's fantastic. No, it's really fascinating. Do you have, so for people that are watching that are really amazed, we use that word a lot, fascinated, bowled over, trying to figure this out a little bit. Do you have situations where you can walk in a crowded room and you're getting energy, you're getting vibes, you're getting something coming in your direction? Or is it something where it's not that random? It has to be somebody calls you and says, this is the scenario that I want to hope that you can help us figure out? Or is it all of the above, Kreskin?
I was called in on a case a few years ago. They got in quite an argument with the law enforcement officers. It was in Essex County. And the family asked that I be brought in, and they said, Kreskin, there's no need to be brought in. I said, yes, but the family explained to me who your suspect is. They said, yes, Kreskin, we gave him a lie detector test. He failed the test. He's the one that stole all the jewelry after the family passed away. I said, no, he didn't. They said, yes, he did. I said, I happen to know this man. He's one of my lifelong closest friends, a brilliant, brilliant dentist. We've had a close bond through the years. He's not told me about this incident. They said, don't bother. He failed the polygraph test, and we feel that he is the key person if we can get more evidence that stole all the jewelry. The family I knew, and they came to me and said, when the father died or whoever died first, the mother was living alone. And when the mother died, we were going to sell the house, and we went through, and the luggage, the jewelry was not placed in these boxes, and it was very expensive jewelry, so it had been stolen. A party took place. A few weeks later, they said, Kreskin, these are going to be friends of Cy. They probably didn't know as well as you did. Would you like to come to the party? And I came. And I will tell you something that I really talk about. I'm going to tell you something, Jim, that I did. When I came to the party, as I shook hands with each person, and I didn't know most of them because I didn't know all these friends of Dr. Fish. He was a brilliant dentist and very highly respected. And I'd say, I'd say something about the jewelry. That's a crazy thing now. Or I'd say a sarcastic about the jewelry and so forth. And when I finished, and I'd spent a couple of hours there, I mentioned the word jewelry to each of them. And when I left, don't you know, the two police were outside the same months. They said, Kreskin, why did you waste your time coming here? I said, there is not one single human being in that room who committed a crime. I shook hands with each of them and passed a remark. Well, they mocked me for it, and I can understand them because they had evidence that he had stolen it. I get a call some months later. They've been going through the whole house. They found that the jewelry that was placed in a certain place was removed by the family when everyone else died, and a couple of them became senile and didn't remember it, and they put it in another odd place in another part of the house, and because of their senility, they forgot it was there.
That's amazing. That's incredible, huh?
Yeah. And I would never have said that they were innocent unless I was absolutely certain. I knew that there wasn't anybody there. And here they found later on that that's because of senility. So, I could talk to you. We gotta get the other son. And boy, reading his thoughts, folks, oh my God. This is good. That could be an interest. Okay.
I like what you just did because you're so known for that, as we can see there. That's the same classic Kreskin.
Where did you steal that from?
That is the same expression. We were talking about your incredible career and just how beloved you are and how fascinating a person you are. In addition to the Johnny Carson and David Letterman and Fallon and all the greats, Regis Philbin we're talking about, one of my other favorites too, and like I say, when we created this series, is sort of bringing back the lost art of conversation, Cavett, Carson, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas style with a modern vibe, modern twist, sort of Regis style. You've had a wonderful relationship with Dick Cavett as well.
Oh my God, Dick Cavett. Did you ever see him in person?
Actually, I did, in working on a PBS special, which, believe it or not, was celebrating Johnny Carson. PBS did an American Masters special, and I was co-hosting with Tom Stewart at the Lincoln Center Studios, Tisch WNET Studios in Manhattan with Tom, and we were celebrating Johnny Carson. And of course, Cavett was a writer for the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in the early years. This is a great shot of you and Dick Cavett, and look how he's pointing to the handshake.
Because what you didn't see is that it had pumped up so many times. But that's today. Sometimes today, if I grab someone and I'm going past real fast because they're coming in, and they'll say, "Wait a minute, I didn't get the handshake," so I got to go back and make sure that I create my signature. But it started. It started when I was in my early teens, so it's not. It
Yes.
was very natural to me. It's the way I shook hands with energy.
Yes.
I love people. I have a great feel for people, and
Yes.
I express it in the way I
You
talk.
do. It's a very passionate,
But
exactly.
that's interesting. You came. You know. I want to tell you something, folks. I don't want to start a rumor about Jim, but finding these pieces about me and so forth. I wonder if Jim has ever worked for the CIA or the intel. Okay. That's all right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But that's great with Cavett, huh?
Yeah, he was good. These people were. Well, you understand one of the advantages you have to understand about this, Carson, about so many people in the business, is that before they were in television, they had appeared in the theater or in the stage.
That's right.
And they knew how to deal with a live audience. So when they were walking, it wasn't that they were making a movie. They were communicating with people live.
That's what I love.
That is forgotten.
Yes, that's what I love. That's why I love doing live television, live radio shows. That's why we do this series live. We got the viewers interacting. You have no idea. Well, maybe you do know what I'm asking. You might. You're just being very kind about it.
Well, an example is one of the which the show was on ABC before the current ABC guy who was on.
Peter Jennings?
No, before that.
On the ABC, you mean the nightly news?
No, the Tonight Show.
Oh,
show?
The Tonight Show on NBC, Jimmy Fallon.
But
right?
who did the show on ABC?
CBS.
CBS.
CBS was Letterman before Stephen Colbert. David Letterman.
Yeah. So on one of the Letterman shows, I walk on. And I trip and I fall right over, just lie there. And I guess I had something in my hand. It wasn't some prop or anything, but it was something I was going to use or show or what made from one of the tests I was going to do. And there I'm lying, and I don't get up and start to make an excuse. I just lie there. And Letterman says, "Kreskin, are you all right?" And then Letterman picks up his phone at the desk and is going like this. I don't know what to do. And finally, the crew comes out and helps me out and so forth. And we go to a commercial break as I walk to the stage. And when I get to the stage now, the commercial break, Letterman says, "Thank you, Kreskin. You made my night tonight." And I didn't fall deliberately, but I turned it into something where I just limply was there. I could have gotten up and so forth, but he gave me a chance to be on the phone and say, "What's going on?" or things like that.
Yes.
He appreciated it because that's the way these shows should be done.
That's the way they should be done.
Of which I go endless shows. And I co-hosted with him for a week, and I remember because as a co-host, of course, I'm meeting some of the many celebrities with I would meet them on other shows as well, but I was a co-host, and at the end of the show, it's the end of the week, and I had done 100 and some shows with them, I guess, what have you. And Mike Douglas looks at me and says, "Kreskin, I want to thank you. Thank you for being on the show. It's been very special to us. I want to wish you the greatest success in your engagement." And we went to it off the air. He watched the clock and timed it because he wanted to create a reaction. I wasn't engaged with that. So I got called the next day from gals I know. "I didn't know we were engaged." No one told me. Well, sometimes there's inside jokes that you just got to run with and have fun with.
Oh, you've got to run with it. Exactly. That's exactly. I love doing that. Always looking for the funny line. Always looking for ways to, bring people together because humor is.
I can do that with my road manager. It's a challenging thing. No, I'm only joking. He hears and thinks all this.
Ah, he's a great manager. Yes, absolutely. Look at this photo here. Mary Wilson, who we lost not that long ago. That's a beautiful photo of the two of you.
She's a very, very talented person, a kind person. And you could see the cheer in her face. Can you see the cheerfulness in her eyes?
Yes. Yes.
You got those
Absolutely.
great. Where'd you get?
Oh, another great host too, and performer, and John O'Hurley.
Yeah, good guy.
Another
He
great.
really knew the business backwards and forwards.
Now,
Right.
he was on our show last summer, and we went up to see his new venue. He's got a new venue in Sandwich, New Hampshire called Club Sandwich, where he performs and he brings in people. John Davidson.
That's John David. But he has his own club, his own place.
He's got his own club in New Hampshire, called in Sandwich, New Hampshire, in the Finger Lakes area, or in the Lakes region. That is the Lakes region. In the White Mountains in Sandwich, New Hampshire. It's called Club Sandwich. It's a venue that opens in like the mid-spring to October, and then he goes to Mexico on his boat. But he lives in New Hampshire, and he has shows several nights a week. Sometimes he's performing for a couple of nights, but then he brings in acts of all kinds.
I'll have my people contact them.
John,
nice
tell him.
Working all over the kind of be nice.
Tell him, hey, Jim Masters mentioned Club Sandwich, and I'm sure you'll be there. Yeah.
And then I'll say, I didn't read Masters' thoughts that strongly, but whatever you're paying me, I think he's going to ask for a high commission. No, we won't do that. No, Jim won't do that.
No, it's not at all. We went up to see him 4th of July weekend. We went up to vacation up there, to the top of Mount Washington, and we went to see him. And John, another great talk show host too, and multi-entertainer, John Davidson. He was a guest here summertime. Guy could do it all: sing, act, dance. Yes. I mean, what do you recall what you were doing there, where you were touching his head? What was happening?
No, I don't. I don't think I was performing. I think that this was a posed picture that we got, because that touch on the forehead is a very when I see you in person, all the celebrities want that touch.
They want that touch. Yes.
Yeah, it's just a special thing.
Larry Henkin, who was a guest on our show as well. Larry Henkin. Yes. Brilliant actor and voice artist and so much more.
I don't know.
You've had so many people. Tony Danza.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my
Incredible
God.
Tony Danza. And somebody we just lost, another amazing host, the one and only Larry King.
He's he's a remarkable man. And he and I did a lot of shows together, and I worked with him a lot early in his career too. Before that, he was very supportive of me. Isn't that interesting? Where do your people go over the that's
Friars Club?
There we are. But that Larry King was a special guy. You realize how much he did all his career, all his life. He was
unbelievable. Yes, a real master of his craft as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, someday I will tell the story of Arthur Godfrey, because, and when college students hear this, they say, we never heard of him. And that's what the people in the business said to me. Someone's got to do his life story, because had the President Eisenhower and the Vice President, when they were in office, had they been assassinated, it was quietly instructed, God forbid this happened, that every major station would go to a certain drawer, pull out a disc, and put it into a phonograph player. And the disc was Arthur Godfrey's voice, which simply said, "Hello, this is Arthur. Sit by your radio until I come on in person." His voice was more recognized than any human being on the face of the earth. And the full story of him is like beyond belief.
Really fascinating. Yeah, he was another incredible legend.
He revolutionized broadcasting, because you have to understand, before Arthur Godfrey appeared on broadcasting, when you put a talk show on, many of the people that were doing the show, they were talking and so forth, and it was only radio then. They were in evening gowns, some were in tuxes, they dressed up, even though they had no audience at all. So when Godfrey came on the air, it was a local show outside of Washington. He said, "If I ever get on, I'm going to change this whole damn thing. It can't be played this way. So when he finally got, and he was called Mr. CBS by Time magazine, and then and so forth. But anyway, when he came on the air, he said he knew, first of all, he knew the situation. The husbands were at work. The wives were cleaning the house because he was on in the morning. He was on every morning from 10 to 11:30. The first hour was radio. The second half hour, the last half hour was radio and television. He was on television on the Talent Scout show on Monday nights from 8:30 to 9 with talent that they brought on. He was on every Wednesday nights from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock with a special with his talented staff who sang and danced. He was on every Sunday for a half an hour with the highlights of Godfrey show. The man so dominated the industry that it was unreal. But he changed the nature of the industry, because when he talked to the people on the industry, he said, I know you just heard the weather report and they predicted it was going to be sunny. Look at the damn thing, it's raining like that, and you probably have to put the garbage out and everything else. And wives identified with him, and he'll say his son, well, you know, one of my guests, you can see she's wearing a dress, a special dress that looks like she was at a rehearsal, and immediately the wife would run downstairs, down the steps, into the living room, turn on the TV, and instead of the radio, look at what he was talking about, because he made everything seem very personal. That was the greatest influence in the history of broadcast. And the stories I will tell you are, some of them will seem unreal, like they were made up, but that's another time. I enjoy my career, and I don't live in the past. I enjoy history.
Absolutely. Yes, that's so true. That's so true, Kreskin. Veronica Lee.
You are something I could, you don't know this, folks, but he's planning a 24-hour, no, I'm only kidding.
Telethon. This is the Jerry Lewis Telethon, which you were a part of too, right? Veronica Lee says, can you use your powers of suggestion to enhance people's self-confidence or ability to achieve great things? That's a beautiful question.
I worked with people privately, hundreds and hundreds of people through the years that I see for special sessions. I can't change a person's total personality, but I can sometimes help bring out abilities within them. And I've worked with people from all walks of life. I don't have there's one gal here who I guess we lost it. It was a boxer, and believe it or not, she called me in to work with her and to help alter. I worked with a lot of, I'm going to go into them now, a lot of people in the sports industry.
Yes.
Because that's been talked about. I don't want to be bragging a lot, but my work's been an adventure. And yes, I do work with people privately in situations, and if I can be of help, but my schedule is pretty tight.
It is.
It's in one session. It usually takes conditioning over a period of a number of sessions, you know.
Why do you love this work so much? I know this work that comes so naturally to you, Kreskin, brings you such great fulfillment, such great profound joy and blessing. Tell us about why it does, how this work and what you do fills you in such a deep way.
Well, what I could say is that we often can control our future by the way we look at things. I mean, we'll suddenly make $1 million, we're going to suddenly get this major job. But by opening our mind and listening to our world around us and seeing people who had success and listening to them talk about their success, people that you meet, how, you know, my God, I had to work at night and pay for ice cream cones because that's the way I made the extra money in order to go to college and study this course and so forth. Not that everybody should go to college. No, everybody definitely should not go to college. It's not something that we have to have. I did not want to go to college, but my teachers said to me, Kreskin, you will offer something and it will add to your life. And as a matter of fact, even though I went to college, very few of my hours were spent in college. They were spent traveling and what have you. Not that I begrudge going, but my career, it added to my career, but it wasn't a necessity and didn't have to be. There are people in police work who never went to college. We can learn, and we don't look down at people because of what they have done and what they haven't done. It's what they've achieved and the success that they're able to share with others. That's what life is all about. And I'm not, and don't misunderstand me. I'm not knocking special education because I've never ceased my education. Last night I read 5 books. I read with great passion, and the books are from different areas of our culture because some people send me books. But you learn. Sometimes you learn from just the spoken word, something that you did not hear in a broadcast that was rehearsed or what have you. Exactly. And sometimes you learn when people suddenly say things off the cuff, out of nowhere that they hadn't thought about, and suddenly they blurt out something and they almost want to apologize for it, but maybe they shouldn't because they may have expressed themselves in a way that they didn't understand about themselves.
So beautifully said. So beautifully said. No script, no teleprompter needed, coming straight from Kreskin's heart. Absolutely amazing. Somebody that always joins me on the show, Kreskin, that just wanted to pay his respects and say hello. Mr. George Burns is with us this evening.
Oh my God. I did not get to know them. What a wonderful team they were. And even after Gracie died, he still worked, but they combined, they listened to each other. And these people understood the business tremendously. Just like who's the gentleman, the singer that's now in his 90s? That's
Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett. Well, always reminds me. He says, "Kreskin, you want to know, you admire him so much, but you want to know how truthfully it is." Before him, the most influential person in the history of music broadcasting scene was Al Jolson.
Oh, absolutely.
The theater closed in New York on Sundays or Mondays. The theater was filled with professional performers who wanted to relax. So they went in to hear Al sing. And Al sang not for an hour, sometimes 2 and 3 hours, because they just felt relaxed. And then the man who revolutionized the art of music and communication, and as many, it was Bing Crosby.
Oh, absolutely.
Man who revolutionized, because when Bing came on the air, he first of all he had had been working for a conductor. I can't think of the conductor's name. Maybe you know it right off his name, but he had worked for this conductor.
Is it Nelson Riddle?
No, what was the conductor's name? Do you know? No,
Skitch Henderson?
It was like Skitch Henderson, but it was he had a show every week with the band.
Lawrence Welk?
Lawrence Welk. He worked for Lawrence Welk. I was trying to get my road manager to think of it because sometimes I get anyway. So it was Lawrence Welk, and Bing Crosby was singing on the show. Wasn't that well known, but was trying to make records. He said, "I want you to, like Eddie Lang, to play the background guitar." And Lawrence Welk said, it may not have been Lawrence Welk, but it was anyway, he said, "No, I wouldn't hire him." Because what you don't know, if you look at all the old pictures of bands, the guitarist is put in the back, in the rear of the place.
Yes.
The guitar was thought of as a lowly instrument coming out of the sewers and so forth. And musicians would not have the guitarist play in the front. And Bing Crosby says, "I want Eddie to play behind me." He says, "I'll fire you if you do that."
Mm-hmm.
Bing did it up. They were in some town, smaller town. And, the conductor said, you want to have Eddie play us behind you. Let him play behind you. We don't have a full orchestra here tonight. So Bing Crosby sang. And Eddie Lang played the guitar. The conductor came over and said, You can have Eddie play as much as you want from now on. Within a few years in the 1930s, if you play the recordings of all the great black singers, they had a guitar in the background because Eddie Lang changed the history of music. And then Kitty Good, whom I knew well, who was Eddie's husband, she was a makeup gala in Vegas. And so she told me the story. Eddie says, you know, you're going to be in a movie. And Eddie said, I'm not an actor. He says, oh, the King of Jazz we're going to make a sequel. I want you to come on because I want people to see who you are. Please, Eddie. Okay. And he had tonsillectomy and tonsillitis. So he said, I got to get my tonsils out. And Bing says, okay, I'll take care of that. I'll pay for what have you. And the doctor, and he was only 32 years old, so accidentally killed him on the operating table. He died. And the picture of Bing coming into the hospital and burying his head in Kitty's lap, crying, sobbing. Bing Crosby never had a close male friend again. He had close friends done through the years, but never a new one, because he felt he was responsible here. He loved Eddie's work and what have you. But the guitar today is one of the great instruments. And guitarists say to me, Kreskin, you need to tell that story because I didn't even know about this man. The man deserved the credit that he created, Eddie Lang. Things like
so do you, the Amazing Kreskin. You deserve the credit too for your extraordinary career and all that you've done and continue to do. Remind us of some of the cool things that are coming up. Again, congratulations on the adventures of little Billy and being a part of that. And of course, like you say, over 22 books. I mean, you've written so much.
And I'm not going to even talk about the new book I've written, but I do have something, as I mentioned before. It's called "What's on My Mind," and we do it every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. We record it, and it goes out on the internet. You can play it. You can play the "What's on My Mind" now, because I talk about something that's been bothering me or troubling me that I've been concerned about, that I think the public should know about, and it's given me an opportunity. It has become so successful that we're planning a sequel to it for television. This is on
terrific.
But it's going to be also a bigger situation. I can't announce it yet, but
no, keep me posted, and then I'll share it here on the show.
I'll let you know, because along with the search for the magic tree and What's on My Mind and the books, the next book I'm writing,
you're going to be touring too, right?
It's going to be, I think, fascinating to the public. My life's an adventure. It is an
it is.
adventure.
It is.
Can you imagine my being on with someone whose first name is Jim, and then reading his thoughts? Oh my God! I'm not going to see you again, Jim.
That's right.
Poor Jim. And he's a good guy. I mean, it's a pleasure knowing you, Jim. We're good. And by the way, I guess our time is getting. I have a way of. I never say goodbye anymore. No. I did it for years in my performances all over the world. But now that we've looked up the meaning of the word goodbye, it means God be with you. I wanted to take on greater meaning. So I don't say goodbye, but when I'm doing a radio or TV thing, in the spirit of broadcasting, I simply say, I'll see you soon again, to be continued.
I love that. I love that. You know what I say? I say, thanking you for your time this time till next time. That's usually how I like to.
That's great.
I usually like to wrap it up that way too. You're great. You're amazing. And we this amount of time going over, things you're working on now. I know touring is something that is starting up again.
That's what I do for a living.
Which is really fantastic. I forgot to mention too that even an album too, the basic principles of Kreskin's ESP. There was an album out too, which is very highly collectible if you can find it now, which is really amazing.
I find people coming with my game to programs, and the games look like new, but they kept them.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's
Even my road manager wouldn't take care of things like that. I mean, in his no, I'm assigning the wrong.
but he got you on the air, right? He got you on the air. Thank God.
We'll talk soon again.
This was amazing, my friend. I look forward to chatting with you again. As I say to everybody, I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, Kreskin, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you.
And I'll see you soon again, be the good Lord willing. Take care.
Absolutely. You take care. You be well. Best of good health, good luck, and thanks for all the time. You are the amazing Kreskin. Be well, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care. Extraordinary, a legend here on the Jim Masters Show Live. This is what we do. Entertainment, lifestyle, variety talk show series, bringing back the lost art of conversation with the warmth and the interactivity of our viewers who are kind of like our international studio audience. And of course, everybody watching, and I love it. Whether you're watching us live or you're going to watch this again in the archives, there are over 600 episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series that we have done and continue to do. And we're so blessed by having all of you here with all of us. He really is a master, huh? Again, whether it's television, stage, books, just really amazing. And he is an American legend on so many levels. And to be doing what he has done for so long and still to this day, you know, a lot of times when people do things for a number of years, they say, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm not interested anymore. I have nothing left to say, nothing left to bring to the table. But not Kreskin. He is always on point. And again, has worked with so many people, has been on all the talk shows. Now, to our pleasure, the Jim Masters Show Live talk show as well. He is affable, as I said, and really loves what he does. And I love this shot going back to like 1972. Talked about Johnny Carson, a little bit of the background, how Karnak came about. And again, Kreskin and I met each other at a gala event in New York City, and it was amazing. And what was really funny about it was, we were there for a VIP situation, and everybody, once Kreskin walked in the room, everybody went towards Kreskin, which was really cool. He's a great guy and a great friend. And we talked about Regis Philbin. He was a great friend as well, great friend, and another amazing talent. Got something else here to show you real quick. This is Kreskin doing his thing on his TV series, which now you can see on Hulu. If you have Hulu, you can see the Amazing World of Kreskin and the Amazing Kreskin series on Hulu, and you'll be blown away. If you've never seen it before, when it was on 70s, 80s, you can see it now. Some of the episodes are there, and it's really cool. Here's a quick clip where Kreskin and Barbara Mandrell perform a card trick. Enjoy.
There's a word, folks, which years ago was coined and popularized by psychologists. And the reason they coined it was to describe a phenomenon that they found in Arthur Godfrey. It's the word empathy. And rather than meaning sympathy, which is just to feel the way someone else does, it's a feeling of being able to put yourself into someone else. This guest, a great country star, is aptly possessed with empathy. Would you welcome with me Miss Barbara Mandrell? Barbara? Oh, Barb. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. This outfit was made just for Kreskin. I wanted to be bright because you are probably the brightest personality I've ever met.
Oh, I love color. In fact, there was a psychiatrist by the name of Dr. Alexander Cannon who died some years ago that revitalized what was made popular in ancient Greece, treating people by color. We're affected by, are you affected by color?
Oh, sure. I like bright colors, too.
What are your favorite colors?
Anything bright, red, blue, green. I think it's because I'm a loud, outgoing person with a big mouth.
No. I have come in the past year a transition since the 4 years that we've done this series. Blue is men's favorite color, but I've also grown to like orange, which is a harvest color. It's it's kind of an earthy color, and I like browns and oranges.
Well, this was for you, and it's
That's beautiful.
red. Little to the orange,
Oh,
okay?
I've got to ask you something, because you work state fairs, and I was at the state fair at South Dakota just a few days ago, and it can be a problem to a showman, a show person, to communicate with an audience. What can you explain to the viewers what the problem can be, as opposed to a theater audience where the rows are, normal distance?
Of course, I do nothing like you do. It's vitally important that you have this real closeness to your audience. But it is for me too, because we have a visual show as well as the music that's involved.
And there's an emotional rapport you look for.
I was a performer for 9 years before I started recording. So I like that one-to-one basis. I have this thing in me that drives me to perform and to make people happy and to have people respond to what I'm doing.
You like people, don't you, Barbara?
You bet I do. And I don't have to pretend. I like the autographing. I like the meeting, the people. And if the audience is clear across a racetrack, sometimes it's hard to reach them. And I need to see them and feel them as much as I hope they need to see and to feel what I'm doing.
Interesting remark, because, there's sometimes when I'm doing concerts, even when I was at Carnegie Hall and you've got the balconies and the distance and so forth, I learned a long time ago something which most performers perhaps have not experienced, but you realize if I put my audience in an orchestra pit and the first few rows know what happens, that last row can feel what's taking place.
You bet they can. It generates to the very last row, and it's spontaneous, because I think people can feel, and you're a great example of this. You get an emotional experience from someone who is experiencing something.
You feed on it and build on it.
That's exactly right.
You love most people, or how?
I love everyone.
That's a beauty. You said that to me driving in, and I so rarely get the opportunity to see anyone before a program, but from the airport. And we spoke of someone whom we both adore deeply. That's Dale Evans, who truly has a great love for humanity.
I admire and respect her probably more than any woman that I've ever met. But there are people that I would rather be around than others. I like some people more than others.
You don't have to
love everyone.
You love everyone, even though you don't have to like
That's
everyone.
Right.
I've got to ask you about your kids, because you started to say something and I didn't want to hear about it, so I kind of turned. Your kids, do they play a bit of cards, did I hear?
Well,
how old are they?
My daughter's only 18 months, so she
doesn't play cards. She's starting to learn the deal, folks.
But my son Matthew is 7, and Matthew is probably going to be very green with envy that I got to be so near you and watch you. And
What does he like to do? Play
He's
cards?
a poker player.
Can you imagine?
Since he was 3, he's a poker player, and a really good one. I've never seen the boy lose. In fact, one of 3 times that I've ever lost any money was to Matthew.
Really?
Yes.
Who's he played? Anyone that we would recognize?
Well, Tom T. Hall. Last time we did a concert with him, we were in Georgia.
Right.
And we appeared, among other people, for our good friend Billy Carter, whom you may have heard of his brother, I think. And, of course, Miss Lillian was there and all. But Matthew went on Tom T's bus, and they had a good poker game going.
Your
Tom
son
T.
and Billy,
Hall
who won?
Well, I hate to tell this, Billy, but they were in a hot and heavy hand, and Billy was just betting for all he was worth. And Matt was staying right in there with him, betting with Tom's money. And
that's just a quick clip. Again, you can check that series out on Hulu. Really an honor and a pleasure to have him gracing our presence here. We're talking about, you can see the way Barbara Mandrell reacted to being in his presence. Really an extraordinary person and national treasure and a true legend. Thanks, gang, for being with us. This is one of over 600 episodes of our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series that we have done. And you can see them all. You can binge watch on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, the channel you're watching right now. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, we would love that. If you enjoy what we're doing here, bring back this lost art of conversation, bringing back the sense of community with entertainment and poignant conversations and light, love, levity, and always a good time. Click that subscribe button. See it on the YouTube channel. We would love that. And make sure you click the notification bell as well so you never miss any of the episodes that we do daily live. And as the Amazing Kreskin said, doing it where it is live, it's unscripted, it's interactive, like he loves, and some of the television hosts and presenters he's interacted with over the years that have done that. That's exactly the way I've patterned this series too. It's really a fantastic way to connect with people and to, entertain and inform and just have a really good time with all of you. And we always have that here on our show. We thank Kreskin for joining us here today, live and direct from New Jersey, USA. Absolutely extraordinary. Check him out, online and everywhere else. Look for his books, look for all the new things, his tour schedule, and so much more. He really is amazing. World-renowned mentalist, author, and TV personality extraordinaire. He's really incredible. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Jim, all Lovities. Yeah, Jiminy is what Lovity and Jim is together. Jim and all Lovities, stay safe. It's really bad where you are weather-wise in Canada, huh? Stay safe there in Canada. Thank you, Jen Barry. Always a pleasure to have you here. And everybody watching. I know you guys have been commenting throughout, and we've been seeing these comments. Sherry Larson says, what an interesting man he is. Thank you, Jim, for having all these wonderful people on your show. You're absolutely fantastic. The pleasure is all mine. And even though we've been doing this show for almost 2 years, we're just getting started. So stick with us, spread the word as you guys love to do, and tell everybody about the Jim Masters Show Live, entertainment lifestyle talk show series. It takes a village. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to give this episode a thumbs up on our YouTube channel. And also leave a comment for us as well. Leave a comment actually underneath this episode on the YouTube channel, which you're watching right now. We would love that. That helps us big time. Thank you, Jim. Great storyteller. Yes, he is. Merlin in Canada. This was great. Thank you, Jim and Kreskin. Our pleasure. Veronica Lee had a great time from Australia. Thank you, lovely crew. Always a pleasure. You are very, very welcome. We appreciate you being here as well. Jane in Sweden. This was a great, interesting, scary, funny show. Thank you, Kreskin, for being here tonight. Thanks, Jim, for having him. The pleasure is mine. Toby says, wow. I love that. Kathy Jean, welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live. It's so cool to have you here. Welcome. I hope you'll join us again. Thank you, gentlemen. You're very welcome, Kathy Jean. So nice to welcome you to Lovity Hall. You're now a Lovity here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Everybody that watches is a Lovity. Thank you for spending time with us. Come back soon. Fun night. Yes, for Kreskin. We will be staying connected. We'll have him back. Absolutely. Thank you, Jim and the Amazing Kreskin. We'll be re-watching this for sure. Yes, if you missed anything with this episode, you can see it in its entirety exclusively right here on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. All right, gang. A pleasure having you here. We thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Jim Masters Show Live. It's always a cool time to have you here when we come together. I love it. And I just want to let you know, tomorrow, for those watching live, we've got more great guests. Yes, and he's going to play live too. Grammy-winning legendary drummer, producer, and songwriter Tony Barnagle is going to be here. He has worked with some of the greatest in the industry. He's one of the greatest in the industry. It's going to be joining us live. We're so excited about that tomorrow, which is really cool. Also on Saturday, another legend, acclaimed musician, composer, producer, the invisible rock star, because he created so much music from movies and television and so much more. Buddy Gibbons is going to be here on Monday from Saturday Night Live, SNL. Vocalist, the Beehive Queen, Christine Ullman's going to be with us on Monday, which is really exciting as well. That's just some of the many guests we have lined up for you. Once again, we thank the Amazing Kreskin for joining us here exclusively on the Jim Masters Show Live. And we thank you for watching this episode and all the episodes you enjoy of our series. It's a pleasure to put these shows on for all of you. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, we appreciate all of you. We love all of you. Share kindness and empathy, like the Amazing Kreskin was saying. We say that all the time as well. And take my word and take Kreskin's word, empathy. is something really essential in our lives. So, and so is gratitude and respect for one another, all essentials in life. More comments coming in. Thanks for the comments, gang. We're going to sign off for now. Those who are not watching live, you're watching this in the replay in our archive. Stay right there. Another episode of the Jim Masters Show Live comes right up. For those watching live, we'll be back tomorrow with another great episode. Thanks for being with us. You guys take care. Be well. And we love you all. Cheers.